Pardon the interruption, but I'm Frank Isola. Wilbon is off because we're just 26 hours from Northwestern kicking off its football season. How about that?
I'm Tony Kornheiser, and just 27 hours away from Northwestern being out of the playoff. So
Wow.
I should ask you this, Frank. You have a child who goes or went to Northwestern.
Graduated.
You yourself went to the University of Maryland. They play each other. Where are your loyalties for this game?
Well, I sent more money to Northwestern, but I'm going to be rooting for Maryland. That's where I went. My money's in Northwestern. My heart's in Maryland. That's how.
That's good. That's good. Well, either way you win and either way you lose,
Yes.
unless there's a tie, which there won't be. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the World Series resumes. The NBA could start in 2 months, and the Patriots could fall to 2-4. But we begin today with Carson Wentz doing nothing for 3 quarters last night, then being great in the fourth and leading the Eagles to first place in the horrific NFC East. Wentz was down 21-10 with 6 minutes to play, and then engineered 2 touchdowns to beat the Giants 22-21. Frank, I know the division is terrible, but admit it, these games are fun.
Am I allowed to say I enjoyed watching that game last night? First of all,
Sure.
You had Daniel Jones with that long run that he had. Then he looked like a little kid running downhill when their legs are going too fast and he stumbled. Exactly.
Unfortunate, yeah.
And then you have, Philadelphia scored twice. They were down 11 with 5 minutes to go. They end up coming back. But for me, the game comes down to 2 passes. Daniel Jones to Evan Ingram. And when you're at this level, you have to make that catch. And then, of course, the Carson.
Because you win the game.
Exactly.
You win the game if you make that catch.
Likely they ice it there. There's still 2 timeouts, and you did have the 2-minute warning. But the Carson Wentz pass to Boston Scott, he made a great throw. Boston Scott made a great catch.
Yeah.
That's what the game came down to. That's what these 2 teams came down to.
Am I correct in this? I heard this morning that he's only 5'6".
It's amazing.
I mean, it's hard to fit it in to 5'6" over another guy's shoulder. It was a great catch. It was a great pass. Let me get to Wentz for a second because Wilbon hates Wentz. He thinks he's the most overpaid bum in the history of the world. But here's what Wentz has done in the last 2 weeks. He made comebacks, and once against a good team, against Baltimore. And okay, last night was against the Giants. But in that period of time, in those 2 fourth quarters, he has led his team to like 34 points or something like that. He's been really, really good. 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That's a big-time deal. Look, last weekend, the Giants played Washington. That game came down right to the end, right? I mean, it's a 2-point failed conversion. You go for the win. The Dallas games, all of them are fun to watch, especially when Dallas gets beat by 300 points. Philadelphia at the moment could get hot because they got a lot of starters coming back. And by getting hot, I mean they could go to 6-10 eventually. It is in my DNA, that division, and I know it stinks, but I like to watch it.
The last time the Giants won the Super Bowl, they did go 9-7. Let me ask you this, though, because you know about the Giants and what they mean in New York, and it's old money, it's Manhattan, it's Connecticut that roots for the Giants, as well as New Jersey. Do you realize that since they went 11-5 in 3+ seasons, they are 13-42? 13-42. This is the New York Giants we're talking about.
In the last 4 years, I believe, they're 0-15 against Philadelphia and Dallas.
That's right.
And it's not just the Giants. The Jets are even worse than the Giants. So if you are the commissioner of the NFL, are you personally affected by the fact that the 2 teams in New York are dreadful? Does that hurt the league? It's a question worth asking somebody.
It definitely does. How about Daniel Jones? I actually thought he played pretty well, but he has 34 career turnovers in 20 games. 19 starts. 34 turnovers. You're not
Frank, he had another fumble last night. I believe that is 16 fumbles lost in 19 starts.
Yeah.
And yet, if Ingram catches that ball, they win the game.
I know. You're right. All right. Well, after a night off, the World Series is back on tonight. The Dodgers send Walker Buehler to the mound, who has an ERA this postseason of just 1.89. But hang on a second. Charlie Morton will be going for the Rays, and his postseason ERA is less than a third of that. Get ready, 0.57. The Rays even things up at a game apiece on Wednesday night. Tony, who needs Game 3 more?
So, I think the Dodgers are the better team.
Yeah.
I think they hit a little bit better. and all of that. And I'm not going to back away from that. I think if they lose tonight, the Dodgers, they lose the series.
Really?
Because I ask myself, who's going to get wins? They have 2 starting pitchers. That's all they've got. They've got Buehler and Kershaw. They're only real starting pitchers at this point. So even if they each win 1 more, that's 3. Where do they get the 4th game? When Tampa goes to a bullpen game, that's what they're bred to do there.
Yeah.
I mean, they are built to go to 5 pitchers and do it that way. When the Dodgers go to Gonsolin and May, it looks like, well, this is not working. So even though the Dodgers have come back from 3-1, I think they have to win this one. And it's hard to beat Charlie Morton.
I know. It's hard to believe that a team with a payroll like that has a bullpen game in Game 2 of the World Series. It's just amazing how much the sport has changed. But I love the fact that the last time Charlie Morton was in a World Series game was 2017, Game 7. He got the last 12 hours against the Dodgers. That's right, when he was pitching for Houston. So, so now, all season long, he's only pitched 6 innings 1 time. He's pitched into the 7th inning 1 time.
None of them go more than 5.
The last game, he was terrific. He threw 66 pitches in Game 7 in the last round against Houston. So
again, the formula for Tampa is to go to the bullpen and bring in these guys who throw 98. That's what they do. Now, there's a way the Dodgers can beat them. You know, just hit. Just hit the way you have hit all year. But, you know, if they pound Morton, that's one thing. But Morton appears to be invincible in playoff games, the rare pitcher that's better in the postseason than the regular season, significantly better.
And what's amazing, this could be the last time we see him because he's talked about possibly retiring after the series. Now, he may get another appearance, especially if it goes 7. What I like about this, Clayton Kershaw is going in Game 5. So in Game 5, he's either going to have a chance to maybe end the series or he's going to have to be pitching for the Dodgers to stay alive, or it's going to be 2-2. No matter how you cut it, on Sunday, Clayton Kershaw is pitching in a huge game, which is going to be great to see.
By the way, Tim Kurkjian told me the other day that Charlie Morton is an expert barbecuer and that he brings his grills with him wherever he goes. I don't know if that's true, but it sounded interesting to me. Brian Windhorst and Zach Lowe of ESPN are reporting that there is movement among some NBA owners to start this coming season on Christmas Day. The Athletic is reporting the start date could be as early as December 22nd, with a goal of completing a 72-game season before next summer's Olympics. Adam Silver has said he wants games played in home arenas, in front of fans, and he wants 82. The players would have to agree to anything that is suggested. Frank, what are you hearing about all this?
I want to know, did they run this by LeBron James yet? LeBron wants that would give him just about 5 weeks off between winning a championship and playing his very next, the next game on Christmas Day. I think the NBA is smart because, Tony, we know what happened. There were some people, the owner of the Hawks, he wanted the season. Yeah, we should be playing in July and August. Let's avoid the NFL. And I understand there's a lot of factors, but the ratings were not good. People are not used to watching NBA playoff games and finals games in September and October. They've always wanted to get on this December schedule, and the Olympics is a big part of it. The Olympics are supposed to be in late July, and it's not just about American players on the national team. They have a lot of international players. They don't want to interfere with this. I think it's smart by the NBA. You're not going to have fans in the building anyway. I get it. It's a short off season for a few teams, but let's get it back up and running.
So these are all of the questions that I have. One, I have read consistently that the Olympics may not go. They hope it goes, but it may not go. Right? I don't know why anybody thinks that in December or January or February there's going to be lots of fans in the stands at any arena in the United States. I don't know that. The ratings weren't bad. The finals ratings were terrible. And the indication is when you play something out of season,
that's right,
nobody watches it. Like in August, there's no sets in use because people are actually outside. So I have a lot of questions. The one thing, when I heard this today, my first reaction was, December 22nd, that's in an hour. That is so close to right now. And I, too, said, have they asked the commissioner? And I mean LeBron James. He's the most important guy. The players have to agree to all of these things. Do you think they will?
I think they will because there's 2 powerful players in the league. We mentioned one of them, LeBron. The second one would be Chris Paul. But remember this, too.
Chris Paul.
The season ended March 11th, so every team had off 4 months. And then there are 8 teams, including the Knicks and the Golden State Warriors, that haven't played since March 11th. So most of the league has been off. LeBron's going to have to be the guy, along with Miami and the Lakers, that'll be making the biggest sacrifice. They'll have the shortest off season in the history of the sport.
I would have thought that when you had a truncated, weird season like this, there would be a bleed-over effect to next season. That you wouldn't just resume and everything would be the same as it was. Let us take a break, but coming up, will the Patriots get back to 500 this weekend?
And is Sunday's game really a must-win for the Cowboys? Get LeBron on the phone, Tony. You got his number.
He's the most powerful guy.
Yep.
He is.
Chris Paul second. Michael Wilbon
third.
The
Olympics, that's interesting. Oh, well, Wilbon thinks it's going to start in March, by the way.
Pardon me.
My extrasensory powers feel unusually perky today. Wait, I sense the first caller.
Hi, Phil and Frank and Tony in the attic. Do you see the Patriots falling to 2-4?
I don't. Bill Belichick had a whole week to actually run a practice. That's a really good sign. Cam Newton acknowledged he hasn't been very good so far. That's a really good sign. I know San Francisco is a pretty good team when they beat Los Angeles, but they don't look as good as they looked last year. Miami took them out by about 35 points at one point just a couple of weeks ago. So, no, I mean, honestly, Frank, I can't believe that a Bill Belichick team would fall to 2-4. So, no, I don't see it.
Yeah, I tend to think that as well. But, Cam Newton, are you concerned? Now, he had said, I just haven't been good. So he's at least admitting that he hasn't played well.
Yeah.
I think no exhibition games. He missed a week because of COVID, hasn't practiced a lot. Tony, on their final drive last week where they're trying to, win the game against Denver, they had Edelman throw 2 passes. So that's what concerns me about Cam Newton. After the first week of the season, all you heard was, well, everybody made a mistake by not pursuing Cam Newton. He's an easy guy to root for. I wonder if all those injuries are really starting to catch up to him.
He is not throwing the ball anywhere near his receivers, but maybe with a solid week of practice, maybe he will. What's next?
Hi, Tony. Hey, Frank. I want to know if you see Adam Gase surviving another loss.
The Jets stink.
Yeah.
The Jets are scoring 12.5 points a game. They're 0-6. They play Buffalo this week. Buffalo's just lost 2 in a row. They're going to come in and they're going to try to pound the Jets. My feeling is next week they play Kansas City. You think changing coaches is going to get them a win against Kansas City? That's crazy. Keep losing. Go get Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be better than Sam Darnold, and Joe Flacco looked like he was made out of wood. And the only way you can keep losing is to keep Adam Gase. So keep him.
Well, you mentioned Buffalo, Kansas City, then they get New England on a Monday night game, then they have the bye week. So I think if a change were to take place, it might happen after that third game on the bye week. Adam Gase said today, Tony, how about this one? Things are trending in the right direction. He wasn't talking about the Jets' record. He wasn't talking about his future. He was talking about Sam Darnold coming back and playing. Do you know that Sam Darnold has 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions? They have
he isn't very good.
They have 6 offensive touchdowns this year.
He isn't very good. And across the street, the Giants aren't very good. Next.
Hey, fellas. I want to know if you see Sunday's game against Washington as a must-win for the Cowboys.
This is a joke, right? There's no must-win. When the leading team in your division has 2 victories, there's no such thing as a must-win. The Cowboys stink. I mean, they're going to play. And this is how bad Washington is. That Washington is playing against the team that has allowed, defensively, more points in the first 6 games than any team in the last 50 years. And Dallas is a 1-point favorite. Dallas is the most overrated, overhyped team in all of sports. Spare me that this is a must game. And also spare me the notion that losing Dak Prescott is losing Joe Montana. Because, come on, stop, be realistic.
They have a turnover ratio of -12. Here would be my thing about the Cowboys, though. After what happened last week, you had anonymous players coming out talking about the head coach and the coaching staff. The head coach of the team has won a Super Bowl before. Nobody on the Cowboys has ever done anything. So it just proves how fragile this team is. It's like the Browns and the Cowboys are the 2 most fragile teams in the league. The minute they lose, everything falls apart.
Every time they lose, people scream, how could they lose with all that talent? They don't have all that talent.
I know. Exactly.
The phone lines are closed, but in our future, I see us discussing whether Le'Veon Bell will have a big debut for the Chiefs.
Yeah, it probably will. And should either number 1 Clemson or number 2 Alabama be on upset alert this weekend?
I mean, honestly, the 2 games they won, they were lucky to win. They're not good. They're just not good.
And Ezekiel Elliott's going in the wrong direction.
Happy time, people. Happy 80th birthday, Pelé. The Brazilian great is probably the most appreciated soccer player ever for Americans of a certain age. Far more recognizable than Maradona, Beckham, Ronaldo, Messi. Ask any American over the age of 50 to name one soccer player, and most often it is the 3-time World Cup winner Pelé. It was Pelé who the North American Soccer League lured here in the 1970s to popularize soccer in the United States beyond a small circle of pretentious yahoos. I remember when Pelé played for the New York Cosmos and drew in every famous person in the city. I remember being in the Cosmos locker room pregame, seeing Pelé chatting with Mick Jagger. I remember covering Pelé's retirement when he said, "Love, love, love," and 75,000 people cheered him like he was a rock star. The mass popularization has never happened here, but Pelé will always be regarded as a cultural ambassador for soccer.
Tony, you were covering that game. I was there as a fan. It was an unbelievable day. I was a little kid at the time. By the way, when I was growing up, we saw him play at Yankee Stadium, of course, Giant Stadium, and then Randall's Island, right underneath the Triborough Bridge. It only took about 3 hours to get out after a game. It wasn't that bad. Really very convenient.
So you were kids. So you're implying that I'm like, what, 110
years old? You were young. You were just starting out.
Happy anniversary, Joe Carter. On this day 27 years ago, Carter hit a 3-run walk-off home run off Phillies closer Mitch Williams in the bottom of the 9th to give the Blue Jays an 8-6 win and their 2nd straight world championship. In the past few days, we have talked at length about Carlton Fisk's home run and Kirk Gibson's home run, and we have mentioned Bill Mazeroski's home run. Mazeroski's home run and Carter's home run are the only ones to walk off an entire World Series. If the same thing happened this year, it would have happened in Buffalo. When you make a list of the 10 most famous home runs in baseball history, the ones I have mentioned are all on it. So is Bobby Thompson's shot heard around the world. So is Babe Ruth's called shot. Henry Aaron's 715. Mark McGuire's line drive 62. I guess Barry Bonds is number 756, though I don't recall it. Roger Maris is 61st. Is there anything I'm missing, Frank? Bucky Dent, Aaron Boone, Big Poppy's walk-off, Reggie's 3-in-1 game, what?
Maybe right outside the top 10, Kirby Puckett in 91, Game 6 against Charlie Lieber, forced a Game 7, Minnesota won. By the way, I was at the Joe Carter game. My assignment afterwards, Mitch Williams I did a story on. So I did a story on the losing pitcher.
Did he talk?
He was actually, to his credit, he was actually very good after the game. That was a brutal locker room to be in. Really tough.
Good for him. Happy trails to any postponed game in the Big Ten. The Big Ten announced a coronavirus policy that will not accommodate postponing and rescheduling a game. If positivity rates within a team make it impossible to play that game, the game will be declared a no contest. The Big Ten is budgeted for 8 games per school because of their late start, plus a 9th game in Big Ten Champions Week in mid-December. The Big Ten says now that in order to compete in the Big Ten championship game and maybe be eligible for the national playoffs, a team must play 6 games. I emphasize the Big Ten says now, because we've seen the Big Ten reverse itself on playing football altogether. They pompously talked about science and safety, but they're going to open the season tonight with Illinois at Wisconsin, despite the fact that the Midwest is under siege by the virus right now. The Big Ten changes its rules when it wants. So don't be surprised if Ohio State is 5-0 and can't get to the Big Ten minimum of 6 games if the Big Ten changes the minimum to 5 games to get Ohio State into the playoff.
I think Wilbon's probably thinking, wait, 6 games, maybe Northwestern can get into the Final Four. Don't you think somehow, some way, 3 of the teams are going to be Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State? It always seems like everyone else is fighting for that one spot.
If Ohio State is good, they ought to be in. Geographic disparities are very good things. The Big Ten is a wonderful conference. They're just a little bit on the morally hidebound side. One omission, both Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas have been ruled out for the Saints game against the Panthers. Michael Thomas, that's a big deal, is it not?
Big time. He hasn't played in a while now.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the big finish. The Holiday Bowl was canceled. Is that a big deal?
I think it's going to be one of many. By the way, the Fenway Bowl, I know one of your favorite games, that's canceled as well. Le'Veon Bell makes his Chiefs debut on Sunday against the Broncos. Are you expecting big production?
It's not that I don't think that he can do big production. I'm not sure how many plays he's going to get. I'm not sure what the Chiefs want out of him. I'm just not at this point. Due to attendance limits in Philly, this year's Army-Navy game will be moved to West Point. Is that significant?
It is. It's the first time at a home site since World War II. Have you ever been up to West Point for a football game in the fall?
Yes, it's beautiful.
How
it's
great
wonderful.
is that? It's incredible.
The march is wonderful. Wonderful.
It really is. Number 1, Clemson hosts Syracuse tomorrow. Number 2, Alabama at Tennessee. Do you foresee any problems for either team?
I do not. I would point out that Syracuse 2 or 3 years ago up there beat Clemson. Now they're 1-4 this year. It's not going to happen, but it did happen. Last one, Maryland at Northwestern tomorrow. Promise me Maryland will win that game.
This is year 2 for Mike Locksley. Hope he wins, but Northwestern 11-point favorite. I don't know.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Frank Isola. Have a great weekend. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts.
Good night, Canada.
You're
kicking all of our athletes out.